guys. Hi to Instagram and hi to both of my Facebook pages. On my personal page and my professional page. Just to let you guys know as you get on here and get your notifications that if you make a comment on my professional page, that's Kathryn Kauffman, Psychic Medium, I will be able to go back after the broadcast and answer questions, but I won't be able to see your comments as they come up. I will only be able to see the comments on my personal page. So let's do some quick shout outs. Good evening to Janice, Chad Rice, George Pinson, hey, Betty Jo Coffee Anderson, Cynthia J. Campbell, Dawn Adams, let's see who else, hey to Sabrina and Katie, Ashley Sally Hart, Emily Hildebrandt, let's see, Marcia Young, Christina, Jennifer Wesley McDonald, hey to you, special shout out. Jennifer Welch, Milanese, and let's see, oh, there's a ton of people signing on. Hey to Rolando, nice to see you guys tonight, special shout out to you. So hi to Instagram, hey guys, let me know if you have any comments there. So tonight we're going to go over home wards. What are they and how to use them, and why is it important for people who are sensitive, intuitive, or psychic to utilize this device or these devices? Hi to Maggie and Stormy, and if you have, and Angel Campbell, hi. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I will try to get to them during the live show and answer your question here. And hey to Declan and Maggie, nice to see you guys. So what is a home ward? So a home ward can be any kind of object that has anchored to it or implanted in it special instructions for psychic protection. So things that can be home wards are any item. It can be a piece of jewelry that you have implanted instructions in for protection. It can be an embossed sigil or some kind of symbol that's engraved in a structure of the home. Why do we want to use these? There's so many different reasons to use those, but especially for people with abilities. People with abilities, the reception is turned on pretty much all the time unless you're really expert at blocking and shielding. And so what happens is there's kind of a static of energy that goes on. And one of the most important things, thanks for the hearts and the likes, one of the most important things that a home ward can do is actually transmute the energy. And what we're doing is transmuting that static and creating a more peaceful and more comfortable environment for the person who has these abilities. Hey to Whitney Stark, John Anderson, and Mitchell Coley, and Gary, and Letha, and Charity. Hey Charity, and Kimberly Barnhill Felker. Hi to Linda Tipton, special kiss to Linda, and Stephanie Corbett, and Pam Lowe. So thanks for joining me tonight. So we want to produce an environment that's not only safe, but also very comfortable. And so what the home ward does is take that static, that psychic input out of the environment so that we can be more relaxed. We're not bothered with this psychic input that's happening all the time. So it's really, really important also that before you place a home shield up, that you do a thorough cleansing of your property or of your living space before you put a home shield up, because home shields are designed to contain. the energy in your living space. And if you don't cleanse before you do this containment, then you may seal something up inside of your property or inside of your home and not be able to get rid of it as easily. So home shields can also be programmed to reflect energy back to the source. So let's say you have a high profile position and you come under a lot of jealousy and psychic attack. What you can do is use a home shield to actually reflect that energy back to the source that's sending it to you. So that's another thing that a home shield can do. So Vanette says, how do you cleanse? Good question. That's a long process that we're going to go through on another show in the future. But for those of you who want to know how to cleanse your property, I do have a Kindle book that's published, and it's called Banishment of Negativity. Just go on Amazon Kindle and type in Banishment of Negativity, or you can type my name in there and it will come up as an author. And so in that little booklet, it just describes to you the implements that we use to do cleansing. And then in the back of it is a step-by-step guide on how to do a cleansing, how to do a blessing, and how to deal with severe hauntings or severe negativity attachments. Hey to Ken Boggle and Krista. Hi to Krista and Ethel and Marion. Hi, hey to Sharon May Maddox. And let's see, Martin Garcia and Lori Schultz. How are you tonight? And Richard and Sandy. And let's see, there's Krista Webb too. Nice to see you guys. So home shields are big about reflecting energy back. Now, so let's say you're going to pick an item that you want to charge. When another way that you can look at charging is imprintation of specific instructions for what this item is to do. Now, when you generate this electromagnetic thought and you go to charge that item, what you're doing is imprinting those instructions on that item. Now, the item can be gemstones, it can be jewelry, it can be a special piece of wood. I know that we use for protection. You can also use the black bog oak from Westmeath, Ireland, and imprint either instructions or a sigil on the wood. And so that's in a way charging that item, not only with the engraving of it, but also with the thought or the electromagnetic instructions that comes from your mind. So let me check Instagram, make sure there's no questions over here. Hey to Betsy and B-Side 3, thanks for joining me tonight. So shielding is big. You can ward yourself, an item, or a location, or a room, or an entire building. Of course, warding an entire building or an entire property is a little bit more complex, and you are going to expend a lot more energy in doing an entire building versus just a room. So let's say you live in an apartment building and you want to have your space warded, but there are other people in the building that you care about and you want to protect them as well. That's when you would do the entire building instead of, you know, just your apartment. Now, when you ward yourself, you can wear a piece of jewelry that has imprinted these special instructions on it. And a lot of people will wear amulets or talismans. Those are wards because it's not just a piece of jewelry. It does have that special energy imprinted on it. Now, if you go and you buy an amulet, it's really not an amulet until you charge it. Okay? Once you charge it, then it becomes a talisman or an amulet. But before that, it is just a piece of jewelry until you put those special instructions in there. Charms are also considered wards, and a charm is just a simple object that is kind of placed at the corners of the home or property or room, and they usually have a connotation of reversing or preventing bad luck. Like a rabbit's foot is considered a lucky charm. So some of the things that are considered lucky charms are iron, like if you put a horseshoe above your doorway, and this comes from folklore in Ireland and Scotland. So the iron horseshoe was considered a good luck charm or preventing bad luck. Mirrors, and in a lot of feng shui, they use mirrors to reflect evil or negative forces that are coming towards the property. Plants can be used as a luck bearer. Wind chimes, also wind flutes. So using any kind of feng shui technique is big on that. Let me check for questions here. Hey to Chanel Devereaux and Paige Denise. Margaret Alley, Beth, Heather, Courtney, Melissa, Mary, and Jennifer. Hey to you, and Beck Stones, and Mary Cummings. Thanks for joining. So these amulets and talismans can be considered lucky, but they do need to be charged before you use them. So, and usually these are jewelry pieces. So one of the best ways to charge an item is through visualization. And what I like to call visualization is magical consciousness. And this is created through the electromagnet in your mind, electromagnetic forces. And this energy is directed at the item. Now, when I do the visualization and I charge an item, I do like to place it between the hands, and I feel like you're going to get the electrical force going from side to side of the body. And I think that that charges a item better. So, but when you're imprinting these magical consciousness thoughts into, or instructions into the item, what things are you going to visualize? Well, you can visualize protective type of thoughts, such as placing armor around the area, placing barbed wire against invading forces. You can also visualize maybe a brick wall or some type of fencing. And the nice thing about this is you can visualize as many layers as you want. So it doesn't just have to be a single layer. You can visualize multiple layers, like you can visualize a brick wall and then some barbed wire and then some armor past that. So do employ multiple layers while you're thinking about that. And in fact, let's see, Sabrina says she also wards her cat. Yes, you can ward your pets, absolutely, your car, to make sure that these things are protected and that you're safe. So let's go into sigils. Sigils are objects that are engraved or encoded with these magical consciousness instructions for the energy to behave in specific ways. Now, how do we want this energy to behave? Do we want what's coming at us? Do we want to have that energy reflected, like we were talking about earlier? Do we want this device to absorb the negativity as it's coming towards us? Do we want this device to transmute the energy into something else? Do we want some energy kept out but other energy allowed in? Because a lot of times, if you completely shut off your living space, you may be shutting out some of the good spirits that are around you, like your spirit guides or people from your family that maybe need some kind of permeability of this area. So we call that a permeable ward. A lot of wards provide multi-layered or interlocking perimeters that you're going to set up. This is a preventative for all kinds of spiritual attack, but also just invasion of privacy. Now, for somebody who's a medium, this is very, very, very important, because the prime time for spirits to contact you is in your sleep while your brain is in theta wave. And that classically happens anywhere from 2 to 3 a.m. So if that happens a lot, then you're losing a whole lot of sleep and you're getting sick and you know, kind of worn down. So it's really important just to keep your privacy if you have any medium capability. And what that does was it allows you to sleep comfortably without being disturbed. Hey to Melissa Begley, Scott, David, Greta, Evelyn, Daniel, and let's see, Samantha Taylor. Hey to you, Wes, and Shay. Hey, Shay, and Tom Driver. Thanks for joining me tonight. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. So sigils are engraved or encoded with these magical instructions. Now, they can just be encoded symbols that can be imprinted or engraved on anything. It can be the corner of your house. It can be on, like I said, those plackets of bog oak that you can get from Westmeath, Ireland. And these are hung at the corners or the perimeters of the property as protection. And it's important to create a grid around the property with these particular devices. So when you're working with energy, you can work with the energy that's directly around you. And this is earth energy, such as gemstones and crystals. You can also work with the weather if you want, and employ the weather as a home protective ward, because that's excess energy in the environment that you can use to make a bigger imprint of this magical consciousness into the device that you're using. Now, if you have something of your families, let's say you have something that's been passed down to you, an item or object, you absolutely can ward anything like that. What we call those objects, and especially if they've been used by family members, let's say you had a picture handed down to you from your grandparents that hung in their house for their whole lives. That's already what we call an artifact. An artifact is imprinted with the energy of the people that it was in close proximity to. So you can enlist that energy in addition to these magical consciousness instructions, and you've got a really powerful home ward if you hang that item in the middle of the room after you have consecrated it and done this magical instructions imprintation for it. Let me check and make sure there are no questions. So Stormy has a question. I have 3 in my living room and 2 in my bedroom. In my living room, 2 are woodsman and Indian woman. My room is 2 gnomes. Those are excellent things to use for wards. One of the reasons why is the wood that they're made out of probably contains protective energies anyway. Some trees and some woods are more highly protective than others, such as cedar wood. Cedar wood is highly protective, naturally occurring in the wood. So things that are made out of cedar make really good things that you can hang, especially once you engrave a sigil on it or a symbol that's really meaningful to you. So, hey to Danny Adams and James. And see, Maggie has a question. With this cold air coming on, I need to ward off fleas and bugs. Well, this is more of a magical consciousness situation. And what this does is it prevents any type of negative attack or spiritual attack or psychic attack. Because what we're dealing with is we're dealing in the realm of energy here. And so different items and different objects naturally have different energies. Some are more protective than others. And this is why we use these implements in home cleansings or in using a home warding procedure. So Jennifer says there's a huge oak tree that she's drawn to on one of her farms. Could you use an acorn or something from this? That is excellent. Oak is one of the best protective things to use because it's always been denoted with a lot of strength, a lot of guardianship, and a lot of protective energies. Oak has always been. So, yeah, you can. Wood is one of the best things to use along with gemstones to create these home wards with. So number one was working with the energy around you. So those are things that are readily available around you: is earth, wood, crystals, the weather. And then the next step is you're wanting to work with the energy that's within you. And this is this magical consciousness, or the power of your intention. Your thoughts are electromagnetic, and they do make an imprint in the environment, even if you're not saying anything. You've seen people who are in a really, really bad mood, or maybe they're really, really negative, or maybe they just exude evil. You know those people right away when you walk into the room. No one has to say anything because you can actually feel that energy coming off of them. So is it so hard to believe that that energy can affect the person's surroundings and their environment and the people in close proximity to them? Yes, it can affect them. And so having these home wards up is one way that you can contain your positive energy and make your living space comfortable. And so it's really important for anybody who's sensitive to use these. So hey to Enrique and Tim Rogers, nice to see you tonight, and Teresa Roughton. So you're working with the energy of the environment and your own energy within you. Then the last thing to enlist is the energy from an agent. And an agent would be if you work with angels, or if you work with your guides, or if you work with your ancestors, and these are people that have passed on from your family. You can enlist help, energetic help from them. And so while you are doing the consecration of the item that you're going to use, or you're imprinting those instructions, you're going to enlist the help of an agent and ask them to accentuate that energy that goes into that item. So it's best to work with all three of these things when you're creating a home ward. You can do a combination, like if you're not really somebody who wants to work with an agent and you don't believe in that, that's fine. You can work with the energy around you and just within yourself. But it's usually best if you use a multi-layered approach, and that would be working with more than one energy to have this cause and effect. So let's check for questions real quick, and I'm not seeing any right off the bat. Back to types of wards, and this can get very, very technical. I don't want to get too technical though, but a permeable ward is more difficult than a simple ward to make, because you have specific instructions on what energies can pass through that permeable ward and what energies cannot. And then you need to clarify you know, what is going to be the factor that this device uses to delineate what comes through there. So permeable wards can also redirect energy away from you. And I suppose that would fall under reflection or reflecting the energy, but redirecting is different from reflecting, I think, because reflecting goes back to the person who sent that energy to you in the first place. So Samantha has a comment. The dreams I have usually deal with the death of friends, loved ones, or disasters. Is the world sending me these messages? It depends, Samantha. My question is, do these dreams come true for you? You may just be getting a peek at the timeline, and that's all that it means. These things, the timeline is in a state of light, and if you have studied quantum physics enough, the state of light, time really breaks down and ceases to become relevant. So sometimes in a spiritual state, and when you are dreaming, a lot of times your astral is fluxing out of your body, and you may have little OBEs and a little astral travel, but that energy is in a state of light when it goes out of the body. So you can get a peek at the timeline of things that have really already happened, but not in our real time. So I hope that kind of answers your question, Samantha. Let me know if you're still wanting to clarify that. So control of energy is the whole basic thing about home wards. We simply want to control the energy. Now, the ward means to protect, or it's a directional thing, because if you look at directions, you can go eastward, you can go northward, which means it's directional. And I feel like the directions are like the instructions. So Samantha says, I feel helpless sometimes because it happens exactly as it does in my dreams, but I can't prevent these things usually. True, Samantha, it does, but it's because it's already happened on the timeline in that state of light, so there isn't anything that you can do about that. It does allow you to acclimate your mind to that disaster earlier than other people, to where that you may be a little bit more accepting of it because your mind has already experienced it on a previous occasion. So then when it actually happens, you're not being shocked with it unexpectedly. So that's the only positive thing that I feel getting a look at the timeline allows you. And also, these things are predestined and can't be changed. So that kind of takes the pressure off of worry about wanting to try to change it, because there really isn't anything that you can do, because in the timeline in light it has already occurred. So let me check for some more questions. So Stormy says, when she worked at psych unit, had to keep a mirror all around me so any negative energy they would throw at me would go back to them. That's kind of a feng shui technique, Stormy. So you kind of naturally, intuitively did that, unless you read it somewhere that you should do that. But that was a really good technique to do. And hey to Lavasha, thanks for joining me tonight. So we've only got just a few more minutes. So be sure and type in the comments any questions you want to get answered. I think the most important thing about wards is just to keep your environment comfortable, especially if you have any mediumistic capabilities, because it takes away that invasion of privacy that other spirits can take advantage of if they know that your reception is turned on. So you want to keep the energy in your home and keep yourself protected. So let me check and make sure. So Daniel has a question. If a dog is intergenic and will go anywhere, but we cannot make the dog go in the basement even if forced, should we be worried? You know, on more than one occasion, animals have picked up on things that the homeowners have missed. The best thing to do, Daniel, would to be to have somebody with mediumistic abilities go to your home and check that basement out to see exactly what is there. Also, another thing that I would do is to do a meditation in the basement and see what kinds of flashes of insight that you might get, what feelings you might get. Are they positive or negative? A lot of times an animal will pick up on excess energy. The energy is not necessarily bad, but it is staticky, and that's kind of what the animal can be picking up on. So it may not be anything bad, Daniel. I would really investigate it, though, because if the dog is picking up on something that's negative, you definitely need to do a house cleansing and remove that energy from the home. And two, ask yourself, you know, are there things strange in the home that are occurring? Like, do you have a lot of depression? Do you have a lot of anxiety? Is there a lot of lack of sleep? Is there, you know, a lot of bad luck that happens to the people that are living in the home? So those are all questions you got to ask. Hey to Jennifer, Gail, and Wesley. I'll see. Wesley has a question. So wait a second. Daniel says that that house is 100 years old. So there may be something there that you need to know about. So Wesley has a question. Do you need to cleanse your home before you energize a ward item, or will the ward item cleanse your home of the negative energy after you imprint on it? The ward will not cleanse the home after you instruct it or hang it up. It's a protective barrier, or it's like the fence or the armor. It protects, it reflects, it allows things through if you instruct it like that, but it doesn't cleanse. So you definitely need to always, always, always do a cleansing before you place any kind of ward or shield up. Because if you don't, you could be sealing in something to your property that would, and then it will make it 10 times harder to get rid of. Now, one thing before I go, I want to tell you guys, all wards will attenuate. This is mind consciousness energy. And when you're first using this mind consciousness energy, it's very strong and it makes a good imprint in whatever you're using. But that energy is going to attenuate. It will get weaker. So it's really important that when you notice things starting to come through that were prevented from entry before, you know it's time to re-energize those home wards. You've got to take them down and re-energize them, and you may want to put different instructions in that home ward, but most often you just have to re-energize them and do more instructions, imprint those on there, and then place them back into place around the home. Hey to Dave. And Stormy has another question. Animals and young children see more than we do as adults, don't they? Absolutely. Animals specifically do see spiritual entities a lot more easily than we do. Children do, but only to the age of 12, unless they have abilities that are gonna stay with them throughout their lifetime. Why do children see more entities and spirits than adults? Is because scientifically 80% of their brainwave state is alpha and theta until the age of 12. And 12, their brainwaves naturally elevate to beta, which is changing the channel on that input. So children are naturally on a receptive channel That's why meditation is so critical for the development of psychic abilities and the maintaining psychic abilities. You have to be an expert meditator, because that's the main channel that you use for your reception. So let me check for any last minute questions. And there aren't any, so my time is up. And as always, kisses from Kentucky. And we didn't do dinner tonight. We skipped dinner. I just had some soup. So I let David have the night off on cooking. Kisses from Kentucky. And I will see you next Monday night. Bye, guys.